What is going on, everybody? It is Andrew Hamill, your go-to New Braunfels and San Antonio realtor, and today we are going to answer the question, is it still affordable to live in San Antonio, Texas in 2023? So let's start off with a 10,000 foot view of kind of the cost of living here in San Antonio. And I'm going to be using a couple of resources to kind of go over the cost of living comparisons. And one of the places that you got to check out is called bestplaces.net. They have on there what's called an affordability index. So the way it works is a value of 100 means that the cost of living is equal to the nationwide average. Anything below 100 means it actually costs less than the national average. Anything above 100 means it costs more than the national average. So on the overall affordability of San Antonio, the index scores an 89. That means that the cost of living overall in San Antonio, Texas is 11 points below the national average. Now, the state of Texas as a whole actually scores a 94. So the state of Texas as a whole is actually more affordable than the national average. And San Antonio is actually, 5 points below that at an 89. So it's one of the more affordable places to live in all of Texas when you're comparing all of the major cities like Austin, Dallas, Houston. San Antonio is ranked right at the bottom of that list. Well, what about where you're coming from? Is it more expensive to move here, live here, or less expensive? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over the top 5 states that have seen the biggest in-migration of people moving to Texas, and we'll see how they score. So no surprise, California is the state that had the most amount of people moving to Texas out of all the other states. So if you're moving from, let's say, Los Angeles, for example, to San Antonio, you're going from an affordability index score of 141 all the way down to that 89. That means your cost of living decreases overall by 36%. Coming in at number 2 is actually Florida, which is kind of a surprise to me. I thought everybody was moving to Florida, but and they are. It's just a lot of people from Florida have decided to move to Texas. So Florida's number 2 for most people moving into Texas. And just taking the major city of Miami, let's compare Miami to San Antonio. You would go from a score of 122 all the way down to that 89, meaning your cost of living just decreased by 26%. At number 3, Louisiana had the third most amount of people moving in from out of state to Texas. And if you move from, let's just say, New Orleans to San Antonio, then your cost of living decreased by about 11%. Number 4 on our list is Oklahoma. So taking the major city of Oklahoma City, moving here actually increased your cost of living by about 6%. Coming in at number 5 is the state of Illinois. So let's take Chicago as a comparison city. So if you move from Chicago to San Antonio, your cost of living actually decreased 16% overall. Okay, so that's just an overall breakdown of the cost of living in San Antonio compared to a bunch of major cities where people are really moving here by droves. But let's break down into the specifics. Now that we've got the 10,000 foot view, let's zoom in a little bit closer and see how these kind of categories stack up. And let's start with everyone's number 1 biggest expense, housing. Now, housing is going to be your biggest expense no matter where you move to, regardless. And the median price of a home here in San Antonio is $279,000. And compared to the rest of the United States, housing is actually 31% lower cost here in San Antonio. So hypothetically, let's just say you bought a home here in San Antonio at the median price, $279,000, at today's current rates on an FHA loan, which is the most popular loan program, the ideal first-time home buyer program. It's the loan that has the lowest cost of entry as far as down payment at 3.5%, sometimes as low as 3%, just depending on who you talk to and type of programs you go with. Your mortgage payment, assuming the average tax rate in the city and things like that, everything just kind of averaging out, your mortgage payment would be about $2,500 a month to purchase a house here in San Antonio at that median price. Now, if you were to rent here in San Antonio, then the average or median cost would be about $1,700 per month. And that's for a 2-bedroom home on average. And if you stay tuned to the end, I'm going to share with you a hack on how you can get either more home for your money or save a lot of money on buying a home here in San Antonio with this really cool trick. If you're thinking about moving to the San Antonio, New Braunfels area, text home to the number on the screen here. We'll reach out to you day or night, 24 hours a day. We get tons of questions about people thinking about moving here. We love it. We'd love to help you out. Let's get back to the video. Now, next on our list of costs is transportation. And here it really doesn't make that big of a difference. San Antonio is right on par with the national average in terms of overall transportation costs. Now, as far as the median price on a car to purchase here in Texas, Texas is ranked about 31st in the nation in terms of lowest priced vehicles. So we're kind of right in that middle area. And according to AAA, Texas ranks 5th as far as the cheapest state in terms of gas prices. So you will save a lot at the pump moving here. We do have oil refineries, mainly in Houston and other areas of Texas. So the transportation costs to get the oil and gas to our major cities is a lot lower than if you were in another state where there aren't as many refineries and there's a lot more costs associated with bringing the natural gas and oil and other things over to you. So 5th lowest cost in terms of gas. Now, as far as insurance costs for your vehicle, we rank 38th out of 50. So we're a little bit higher than the average in terms of the cost of your car insurance. Now, in terms of public transportation options, this is where San Antonio really kind of drops the ball. So like all major cities here in Texas, we expand outwards, not upwards. So in terms of like walkability and ease of using the public transportation systems, it's really not there. San Antonio is pretty much divided up into an outer loop and an inner loop of town in San Antonio proper. And inside of the inner loop, there's really good public transportation options using our bus system. But anything outside of the outer loop, which is where the majority of people are actually living these days, there's really not a whole lot of options. Obviously, we don't have any sort of rail system or subway system, so you're really limited as far as how you can get around if you wanted to use a public option to just the Via Bus system. All that said, if you wanted to use the Via Bus system, it's about $1.30 per ride, or you can pay $38 a month to get a pass to use the public transportation system. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about utility costs. And obviously this is one of those things where it varies greatly because it depends on how you use your energy, but we'll throw around some kind of generic numbers so you can get an idea of what the cost is to heat and cool your home, have water, sewage, trash, all those types of things. And this is one of the downsides of living in San Antonio is that we don't have an option really as far as who our energy provider is or who our water provider is. You see in a lot of cities, it's kind of open for competition, right? Whoever can supply the cheapest energy costs is who's gonna get the business. San Antonio is not like that. Even though Texas is a deregulated state where you could have a bunch of different providers, San Antonio is regulated and there really is only one choice, and that is CPS, which is our electricity company, and then SAWS, San Antonio Water System, is our water and sewage provider here in San Antonio. These are the only two providers you have in terms of water and electricity. Now, fortunately for us, even though we only have just the one provider on electricity and one provider for water usage, we still actually rank pretty low in terms of utility costs. So the national average is about $240 a month for electricity, water, and sewage. Our average utility cost per month is right at $200 a month. So you save some money there, even though we only have the one provider. Now, the costs are much more heavily skewed to the hotter parts of the year. So unlike a place like California or other coastal cities where the temperatures are pretty even throughout the year, obviously, San Antonio and any place in Texas, it gets hot in the summers. And so your electricity bills are gonna be high during the summer months and relatively low during the fall and winter months. So as an example, I live in a 3-bed, 2-bath home, about 2,000 square foot. And we have the temperature at 74 degrees during the daytime, and we turn it down to 71 at night when we go to sleep. Our highest utility bill, and forgive this example because it's not exactly apples to apples because we live in New Braunfels and NBU is our energy provider. They actually supply electricity, water, and sewage, and trash actually. But for all those kind of rolled into one, our highest bill to date has been just over $500. But keep in mind that's electricity, water, sewage, and your trash. Now, fortunately, during the winter months, it rarely gets really, really cold. And for the most part, I just have the system completely off the majority of the fall and winter months. because the house will never, hardly ever get below 68 degrees, which during the wintertime is no problem. I mean, it will get down to like 65 overnight, so I usually have to set it maybe at 65 just in case, and then it'll bump it back up and it gets above 68 in the mornings. So you do get a huge break in your bills during those few months of the year. So if we do have it on, it's like 65 at night as far as the heat, and 70 during the daytime if it's a really cold day. Leave a comment and tell us where you're from, and tell us what you set your temperature at and where you're at and what your average energy bill comes out to on a monthly basis. Now, as far as water, we average about a $45 a month water bill in the San Antonio market, which is below the national average. And it really just depends on your usage. How often do you take a bath or shower? How often do you wash your clothes? How often do you do the dishes and whatnot? And of course, the main thing that's going to eat up your water bill is going to be the sprinkler system if you do have one of those. So San Antonio is one of the few cities where our main water source is an underground aquifer, which is basically like a huge underground cave that catches all the rainfall, permeates through the limestone and rock, and then just kind of trickles in almost like a natural filtration system into a big pool underground. And that pretty much services all of San Antonio and a lot of surrounding cities as well. So because of this, we do have water restrictions on an annual basis during the hotter months when there's not a lot of rainfall. And of course, the Edwards Aquifer is supplying water to so many people. It does start to wane during those hot months. So you'll have water restrictions. Sometimes it's been severe as far as you can't water your grass but every 2 weeks. But for the most part, once or twice a week, you're able to water your yard, and it's not a big issue at all. And another thing is most of the new home builders here in town, they all put Bermuda grass on the properties that they build. Bermuda grass is super drought resistant. It browns during the summer and it looks like it's almost dead. But then as soon as water starts to come, as soon as it gets cooler and it rains a little bit more, you turn your sprinklers back on, that thing, it just grows and it turns green right away. So if you have St. Augustine grass or one of these other types of grass that is a little bit thicker, it is gonna require a lot more water to keep it going, especially through those crucial summer months. But if you're buying a brand new home, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have Bermuda grass, which means you'll be fine during the summer months. At my house, I have the system running once per week, and I have it running about 5 or 10 minutes at each zone, and that's plenty enough to keep the grass growing. If you wanna know more about what it's like to live, eat, sleep, work, and play in the San Antonio, Braunfels area, hit the subscribe button right now and stay tuned for future videos that we're gonna release every single week, where I cover every square inch of these great cities. And if you found this information helpful, please hit the like button so that other people just like you can find this information as well. Now let's get back to the video. Now let's talk about grocery costs. And unlike other areas of life, this is really where you see the inflation over the last few years. Even though most of us, we're not memorizing what the cost of a head of lettuce is, week by week, but you can just kind of feel it when you get to checkout and you see how full your cart is and you realize, damn, this 150, 200 bucks used to give me a lot more of a full basket last year than it did this year. Now, fortunately here in Texas, we pay on average 10% less at the grocery aisle for food. And when it comes to chain options, we have the usual. We've got Walmart, we've got Target, we've got Costco as some of the larger chains. And then we even have Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and Sprouts at some of these kind of smaller chains throughout. We don't have Kroger, we don't have Albertsons, Aldine, Publix, Food Lion, Stop and Shop. And you're probably wondering, why doesn't San Antonio have any of these major grocers? And the main reason is because the 7th largest grocer in the nation resides right here in San Antonio, Texas. And I'm talking about H-E-B. H-E-B is a Texas-based grocer that actually started their first store just outside of San Antonio in 1905. And since then, they have opened up just a ton of stores, primarily here in San Antonio, Austin, and then a few in the Dallas and Houston area. They have over 420 stores, and the majority of them are here in San Antonio. 46 stores, as a matter of fact, here in San Antonio proper. And when you visit an H-E-B Plus store, you'll realize exactly why they're so popular. As a matter of fact, when I was younger, we used to have Albertsons here. There was about 20 locations when I was growing up. H-E-B put all of them out to business. And ever since then, I think a few chains have tried to come down here, but without any success. And now it's to the point where every other major grocer in the nation realizes, man, Texas is such a big market, but there's no way they can bring it to San Antonio or Austin. Anyways, enough about HEB. What I'm gonna do is break down for you two different ways of estimated grocery bill. The first thing we're gonna do is check out this awesome website you gotta check out called numbeo.com. They use actual price entries from people all over the country. So it gives you kind of an accurate snapshot of how much certain items cost here versus in other places. So according to this website, the grocery bill for a family of 4 in San Antonio is about $1,300 per month. Take a look at the list on your screen here and just kind of compare it to how you typically shop to figure out if it actually would be more expensive or less expensive. And the second method that I did was I went to HEB's online store and used a template from a website called Listonic of the 30 food staples in everybody's home. And I used this list to put together a grocery order online. Now, obviously, I'm sure you can find a bunch of different ways to nitpick what I've selected here, but it's just kind of a rough idea of like what a weekly grocery bill would cost. And in my opinion, I would say $200 is about right for a family of 4. And stick around to the end because I'm gonna share with you another hack on how to save on your grocery bills that you don't wanna miss. So let's just split it down the middle and say it's gonna cost you about $1,000 a month in grocery costs for a family of 4. Okay, next thing we're talking about is entertainment costs. And like, your energy costs and groceries, this is completely subjective. Some people love to go out, some people hate it. So it's really just gonna depend on how often you go out and what level of entertainment you go out and take part of. So we're gonna go back to numbeo.com and see what they have to say as far as what it costs to go out and entertain yourself here in San Antonio. So what they're assuming here in this average is you're taking out a family of 4 once a week to an inexpensive meal. And they're also assuming you're taking out your spouse once a week on a mid-level meal, just as a date night. So taking out the whole family to a relatively inexpensive meal once a week, taking out your spouse once a week to like a mid-level restaurant on a date night, including drinks and everything, it's saying it's about $1,000 per month. And I could tell you from personal experience, taking me and the kid and my girl and the kids out anywhere at a restaurant, it's gonna be about $100, including tip. It's usually like $20 per meal for each adult and another 10 or 15 bucks for the kids. And drinks are gonna cost you about $10 a piece as far as alcoholic drinks. And that's for a decent restaurant, not anything fancy and not, McDonald's. Now on the going out and entertainment part, they're assuming here in these numbers that you're taking your family to the movies about once a month. And so they're estimating about $143 a month to take the family of 4 out to the movies one time. That's a little high in my opinion. I'd probably go closer to about $100. Tickets, popcorn, drinks, it's gonna run you about $100. Now, besides movies, there's plenty of free things to do in San Antonio. San Antonio has over 240 city-owned parks that include swimming pools, gymnasium, historic cemeteries, sports facilities, recreation centers, and a botanical gardens and conservatory. Besides that, you can get season passes to a number of different amusement parks that we have here, including Six Flags, SeaWorld, Schlitterbahn in New Braunfels, Morgan's Wonderland Park. And usually a season pass costs about a little bit more than a one-day pass anyway. So if you see yourself going more than once in any particular season, it's absolutely worth it just to get the season pass, and will save you money in the long run, especially if you bring your own lunch. So literally you can get a season pass for the whole family, go there once a month, and take lunch with you and eat in the car or one of their benches that you can sit at. And that pretty much covers, one out of the 4 weekends every single month. And Schlitterbahn's pretty cool. They actually let you bring coolers into the park and there's benches everywhere. So you can get a season pass. So let's say Schlitterbahn, go there once a month with the kids, spend all day there, and literally have your cooler with you everywhere you go. Eat lunch there, have your drinks and beverages there, and spend little to no money. So let's talk about property taxes now. So property taxes are obviously the necessary evil that we all have to live by if we want to drive on a road that is working and have public schools and whatnot. Now, if you're paying a mortgage, your property taxes will already be included in your mortgage payment, but let's go ahead and break it down anyways, because it is something to highlight. And so far, you've probably been thinking, man, San Antonio is actually a pretty cheap city to live in. And this is the one part where it's completely the flip opposite. Our property taxes are higher than most states. In fact, we rank fifth as far as the highest property taxes in the nation. Fifth highest property tax rates in the nation. Now, your property taxes are going to depend on where you live and obviously the schools and things like that. If there's any sort of like a municipality tax, or if there's a MUD or a PID, which we'll break down here in a second. But inside San Antonio city limits, your tax rate is about 2.35%. Meaning if your house is worth $100,000, let's say, which it's not, but let's say it is, $2,350 per year is what your taxes break down to. Now I'm gonna break down for you at the end another hack on how you can get your property taxes much lower. And again, get more home for your money's worth or save a lot of money on your mortgage payments. Now, Texas as a whole has high property taxes. As a matter of fact, San Antonio is actually ranked number 2 as far as cheapest property taxes in the state when compared to the 4 main cities, right? We're talking Austin, Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas. Houston's the cheapest, we are next in line as the second cheapest in terms of property taxes in these 4 major metropolises. Now, of course, property taxes is just one of the ways Uncle Sam kind of gets his on you. And even though we rank high there, you are gonna save money on taxes in other ways. For example, Texas actually ranks, so we're 5th highest in property taxes, right? But we're 5th lowest overall in the nation in terms of overall tax burden, mainly because there's no city taxes and no state income tax as well. So if you're coming from a major city in one of the 42 other states that do levy a income tax, you're gonna save money moving here. And there are also a lot of exemptions that you can get in terms of easing the tax burden on your property taxes. First one being the homestead exemption. So if you file your primary residence as a homestead, then you'll actually get a 20% reduction in the appraised value of your property. So if, let's say, the city appraises your home at $500,000, you're gonna get a $100,000 break on that number, meaning they're only gonna tax you at $400,000. And if you're being taxed at that 2.35% rate, that basically means that you're saving $2,300 in taxes. If you're over 65, then you get an additional $85,000 exemption on that appraised value on top of the 20% reduction for being a homestead. And also, if you're a military veteran and you have a 100% disabled rating with the VA, then you're exempt from all property taxes. And this is a thing that is used a lot here in San Antonio because, we are named Military City USA. We have a bunch of bases here. We get thousands of people that PCS into San Antonio every single year. Plenty of people live here for a few years in the military, move out, and then retire and come back here because we have amazing VA services as far as medical services. All the bases here means you have different places to go on base to do your grocery shopping. It's just a really big place for military people to retire and live. And so a lot of veterans have been able to take advantage of this opportunity if they have been given a 100% disabled rating. So that 100% savings on property taxes means that if you bought a $300,000 home, it would lower your mortgage payment $500 a month. Or you could keep your mortgage payment the exact same and buy a house $100,000 more, and your mortgage payment would be exactly the same. Okay, so now I want to break down for you the overall expenses on a hypothetical basis, just to see what it would really cost for a family to afford to live in San Antonio. So assuming you bought a median priced home at $280,000, which would get you about a 3-bed, 2-bath with about 15 to 1,800 square feet in San Antonio. And let's say you got an FHA loan at a 6% rate at a 2.35% tax rate, then your mortgage payment would be $2,400 a month. Let's add on top of that $1,000 a month for groceries. Now for 2 vehicles, let's just assume you already have a car that you're bringing down here with you, whether it's paid off or you're paying on it. Let's not include that. Let's just talk about your gas and your insurance. So gas, vehicle, for 2 vehicles, it'd be about $275 per month for gas. Your car insurance would be another $300 a month. Your utilities, water, sewage, electric, internet, 2 cell phones is gonna run you $600 a month. That totals out to $4,500 per month and change. Now, I'm not going to include any miscellaneous items like going out to eat, entertainment, all that stuff, because all that is optional. This is just kind of your core living expenses. So overall, a family of four could live for less than $5,000 per month, which I think is pretty good. And if each adult in the household makes the median income, which is about $61,000 per year, then basically one of you is working to pay all the bills and the other you is working to save money, do fun things, invest, all that type of stuff. All right, so now you've got a decent idea of what it costs to live here in San Antonio. Now I'm gonna share with you 5 tips on how you can hack this and save hundreds of dollars every single month on all your living expenses. So tip number 1 is living outside city limits. So just making this one move, your effective property tax rate can go from 2.3 to 2.5%, all the way down to as low as 1.6%, which is a huge savings. We're talking hundreds of bucks a month that you'll save on your mortgage payment every single month just living outside city limits, which in all honesty is most people live outside city limits anyways. The west side of San Antonio, far west, has been the biggest growing area in terms of residential development for the last 25 years. Another area of town very popular is New Braunfels, just northeast of San Antonio. The tax rates there are also low, sub 2% in a lot of cases. So by making that simple decision to live outside city limits, you're either going to save $100 to $200 a month on your mortgage payment, or you're gonna be able to buy a $20,000 more expensive home for the same mortgage payment as living inside city limits. That extra $20K can get you an extra bedroom, an extra bathroom, and even a game room for that amount of money. So tip number 2, if possible, work from home or live close to work. Making that decision can cut your gas bill in half. That's another $100 to $150 a month that you can shave off of your expenses right there. Tip number 3, order your groceries online only. And I'm telling you guys, this works. Every time I go to the grocery store, I'm spending $300 plus. When I order online, it's like half of that. And I think there's several reasons why. When I'm at the grocery store, I don't know what I'm missing at home because I don't take a grocery list with me. But I'm not sure, am I really out of this? Yeah, we'll get more just in case. Also too, they get you in the grocery store, right? They have all the good stuff right in the middle. You end up going through every single aisle and that just stacks up your costs. So I always shop online because I'm there. I can open my fridge and see, okay, I'm out of this, and this. I see the cost ringing up every time I add something to the cart, and it just makes me more conscious of what I'm buying when I do it online versus just throwing it in the cart at the store. So that right there, I promise you, will save you $100 to $200 a month if you shop online. All right, tip number 4, this is how you're gonna save money entertaining your kids, okay? So let's just say Saturday is your day of the week where you all go do something as a family, or Sunday. So here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna take a bowl, you're gonna fill out 24 things to do as a family that is free. I'm talking hitting up all the major parks, city events that are going on at certain times of the year. Just there's a ton more things you can do, but you can find 24 things to do as a family that doesn't cost any money. Put them in a bowl, and every other weekend, we take one out as a family, and that's the thing we're doing. Also pack your own lunches when you go so that we don't have to pay for food wherever you're at. And then you can do that basically one weekend you do that, the next weekend, maybe you go out for a movie or you actually spend money on something. Or maybe you get those season tickets and that's the season passes and that's the thing you do that weekend. Weekend number 2. Weekend number 3, we're doing picking another thing out of that bowl and we're doing that thing as a family. And then weekend number 4, everybody's just staying home. This is just a weekend to just relax. So that's 3 out of the 4 weekends every single month. You're not spending any money. And it's really only one weekend out of the month where you got to do something, which is, again, it's either go to the movies or use those season passes you got and go have fun there. So tip number 5 is how you're going to save money eating out as a family. So similar to tip number 4, each week has a theme, right? So let's just say, for example, maybe every Friday you guys go out to eat usually as a family. Well, this time what you're gonna do is week 1, you're gonna hit up a fast food restaurant together as a family, okay? Maybe hit up Chick-fil-A or any of these fast food joints that have a play place or something like that. but that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna go to a fast food restaurant once a month. Week number 2, you're gonna eat dinner at home, and then you're gonna go out together as a family to get dessert. So I'm talking, go hit up a frozen yogurt spot or wherever, but you're gonna save money not having to order a whole meal at a restaurant, just going out to get dessert. Week number 3, instead of going out to dinner as a family on a Friday night, let's say, you're instead gonna go out to lunch as a family, like on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. The lunch menu is always cheaper than the dinner menu. So that's another way you guys could save money. And then finally, week number 4, you can go out and have a traditional night out at a sit-down restaurant on a Friday night or whatever day of the week you wanna go. But just doing that right there is gonna save you another couple $100 a month. So if you follow these 5 tips, I guarantee you're gonna shave off at least $500 a month on all your living expenses. And that's just, the miscellaneous stuff. I'm not even talking about, controlling your thermostat, controlling the amount of times you water your yard. There's plenty of other ways you can hack your expenses to make it even better. But just these 5 tips right here is gonna save you $500 a month plus every single month. So I hope this video was helpful for you to see just how cheap it is really to live here in San Antonio. I'll leave a link in the description to all these websites where you can go kind of mess around with it and see how much it would cost for you specifically to move from where you're at over here to San Antonio. Thanks so much for checking out the video. Again, if you have any questions, need any more information, please feel free to reach out. I got my information on the screen here, and the next video is already ready to go.